What's up, man? Ronin man here. Loneliness, man. I think this is one of the main reasons why people get married. I really do. First thing about it is it's a fundamental aspect of the human condition, is that we are alone. And I think a lot of us assume that other people's lives is different because of their situation. So if they have many brothers and sisters, or if somebody's married, if somebody has a lot of children, if somebody is famous and in demand, if somebody has a very active social life. Some people would think if somebody travels and, always does new things, then they wouldn't be as, lonely as you, just sitting there right now. And there's not a lot of talk about it. So when people feel lonely, which is a very, very normal feeling and very, very healthy feeling, and not that it's an easy thing to feel. It's not easy at all. And that's why people drink, like when they're alone, because they don't feel lonely. They just don't feel that kind of, I don't know what it is. I've heard it described many ways. If I think about it for myself, for me, it's kind of this feeling that I'm making some mistake. Like I should not be here alone, And in fact, right now, and usually when I record my videos, I'm alone. And somebody said on one of my videos, they said, this guy walks alone, which is actually not often true. I often have people with me and I'll hold the camera. But it's still interesting because he said that, basically he has a family and kids, and so he's not alone. And there's a concept that someone who is alone is lower status, some kind of lower value human, that people that, are in groups are higher value. And that's actually directly contradicted with a lot of research, which says that the higher intelligence somebody is, the more likely that they won't, well, they don't know the real reason, but they won't need as many friends. And I think a lot of it is just because the higher intelligence somebody is, the more they can handle the complexities of life. So they don't need to fill it up. It's like having a room full of furniture just because you feel like that's a home, whereas an empty room is not a home, So I think the reason why I say this, I think it's important for MGTOW, is because when you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I am essentially going to take a detour from society's programming. So the way that most people live, I'm not going to do. I'm going to do something my own way. And, honestly, whenever you do make a decision in life and you go a different way than everybody else, there are risks. There always are risks. And, because the group often has, you know what I mean? They've thought about things. Like there are things that the group, has considered and are part of whatever that life is. I don't know. I just think it's just standard things like a hotel has windows and light comes in and there's pipes for water and there's a shower. There's things that humans want. And when you go off on your own, you kind of have to think, well, what do I need, right? Do I need to, I smell, right? I need to clean myself. I need to clean my body, right? I'm thirsty. I need to drink some liquid, right? So you have to go and respond to and notice your own needs, right? So society has done a lot of thinking for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you go your own way, and again, MGTOW, we all live in the world, right? So we have friends. A lot of people have jobs. I mean, we have families and, parents and, brothers and sisters. There's a lot of stuff that is not that different from the regular person. But there is some pretty fundamental differences because we're socially choosing to analyze and make a self-conscious, a self-determining decision about the way we want to go in life, and that the society's way is not necessarily the choice we're going to make. And I think it's pretty fundamental. It's pretty, reasonable to assume that you will be alone more. And I think for myself, I think that is probably true. My brother, has 3 kids and a wife, and he's in the house with people in the morning. Well, they're sleeping, but then he goes to work and he's with people. He's at a company, and there's in an office, there's people there, and then he drives home, and then, somebody's at home, right? So I guess the only time that my brother is really alone is when he goes to sleep, or when he drives in his car to work or back from work, or when he gets home. Somebody's not always home, and sometimes he's alone. But I would say that compared to me, I will be physically not with people as much as him, because I don't go to work. I don't have a family. I don't have children living with me. I don't have a lot of things that he has that kind of, it's a built-in structure for, I don't know if he did it for this purpose, but I think the reason why society is very comfortable with these things is because it allows people not to feel that feeling of being alone. And I think that it is very important to accept that feeling of being alone. There is no escaping it. There literally is no escaping it. We're born alone and we die alone. And whenever you face these fundamental truths, people start talking about nihilism and things like this. The truth about being lonely and alone is that you can try to cover it up, and you can do things that fill the space, but they don't take away that fundamental feeling. They don't. They really don't. And that's the problem with all these things, is that let's just say that you don't want to be alone, right? So you say, okay, well, I'm going to get married, and that will solve, I'll have a relationship for 25 years or whatever, and that will solve my feeling of being alone. But if you talk to any married guys, and a lot of guys will tell you that they feel more alone after they were married. That's a pretty common thing I hear, actually. Married guys feel more alone, and you hear about people being alone, feeling alone when they're in groups, right? So physically being with people doesn't necessarily fix that problem. And I don't want to underestimate the value of human interaction, because we are social creatures that mirror others. And being social is one of the greatest joys that we have. So the danger is that you would use other people as a placeholder, or as tool that you don't have to feel lonely in that moment. And that's very different from human interaction and social connection, emotional connection, and friendship and camaraderie and things like that. So I guess what I want to say is, if you are afraid of being alone, I would say that is a normal, healthy feeling. It is normal. This isn't one of these things where there's a simple solution. I don't have a way to say, that you can follow your bliss and you can find, I have some path for you where you'll never have that feeling again of being alone or being lonely. And I think anybody that says that is a charlatan, is a scammer. I don't think there is any way. This is a fundamental aspect of being human. And I think there's no solution, but I can just say things I've done or ways I've looked at it over the years that have been different than that feeling of just utter lack, I've definitely had a lot of times where I was alone for significant periods of time, and I used it as a form of solitude in order to discover or find what I wanted to do. Sometimes I need to be alone. I need total peace in order to, and time by myself, in order to find, let's say, a new path for if I want to change careers. If I want to make, anytime I need to make a big decision, so something very, very fundamental, time alone is really essential for me. And whenever I'm in that mode of kind of like trying to find something new, a new path, I don't feel lonely in those times, because I know that being with people distracts me. Or sometimes I just need the deadness of waiting for my real thoughts or feelings at the time to come up. And so I know that about myself. I just need that time sometimes, because I can't just do it on demand. It takes time sometimes. So whenever I'm doing that, it's almost deliberate. Like I'm making a decision that I'm going to take time. And that's why I came to Thailand, actually. A lot of people wonder why I came to Thailand. I came to Thailand because I knew that it was cheap here. I knew that it was warm. I knew that I could buy food very cheap, very healthy. The type of food I like, fresh vegetables, things like that. Pre-made for me, so that I didn't need to cook all day, because I like cooking actually, but I didn't want to cook, because when I'm in a mode of trying to figure something out, like when I'm going into my monk mental state, I don't need any busy work, although I sometimes busy work can help too. Mindless cleaning dishes, like where I can come up with a good idea while I'm doing something, right? Something very simple that it doesn't require a lot of mental energy. There are those times too, but in this case it was more extreme. I really wanted to be by myself, and I wanted a cave. I wanted a fucking cave. And that's what I rented when I first came to Thailand. I rented a 5,000 baht, which is like a $140 room. And it had a window, but it wasn't even a window outside. It was a window to a hallway. And I was very happy there because I really wanted to find out what I wanted to do with myself at this stage of my life. And I knew that if I had to cook all day, if I had to stress about money, if I was like, Thailand, you don't even need to wear clothes. Like if you're in your house, like say there's no window, no one's looking in, you don't even need clothes on because it's so warm. Like you never need pants, you never need shirt, you never need anything here. So I wanted to be in a place like that where I could just totally focus on writing and whatever I wanted to create, and then see what happened, right? Where I went with it. So that being alone was a very powerful thing for me. And I don't know if you guys do that. I don't know if you take time to do that. But that's what I do. Fundamentally, I do it. Periodically, I do it. And that's why I did up at the cabin. I had a lot of time to myself. And it was very, very, very invigorating. But I was only up there a total of 2 weeks. And I had a friend up there most of the time. So the times when I was truly alone was when I went to sleep. When I went to the cab. We had this internet building. When I went to that. Or when I walked around the lake. And so, or when I was swimming. So I did, every day I walked around the lake. It was like a 4-hour walk, sometimes 5 hours. And that was really good for me because it allowed me to, in that case, I was walking, right? So it gave me something to do while I was thinking. And I came up with a lot of good ideas during that time. And it's not even about good ideas, like good or bad ideas. It's about finding what I want to do or what I think is important, right? So that's one type of loneliness. Or being alone is a day or 5 hours or something. But there's also 6 months, which is kind of what I did to Thailand when I came here, And that was really good. And I just wonder if a lot of guys are capable of this anymore or understand the value of this. I've been really busy recently with the going to Japan and the MGTOW summit and everything was going on. And then when it finished, a friend of mine got stage 4 cancer down in Osaka, so I wanted to go down and see him. And I went from being in a very, vivacious environment with a lot of guys laughing. And we were laughing our butts off at this summit, man. I'm serious. You guys that weren't there, you can't even imagine how fun it was. It was really, really great. I had a great time. I was surprised and overjoyed like a million times during that period. Technically it's 3 days, but it went on probably at least 7 days. And so when I went down to Osaka, it was a completely different feeling because one, I went by myself, and then two, when I got there, I was with my friend who's in his 70s and his wife. And they, one of them has stage 4 cancer and is dying, right? And so their mood was completely different than at the summit. It was very serious, and they were very glad that I came. And I was very glad that I went. And I have a very strong feeling that's the last time I will see my friend. And I was glad that I went because we are alone and lonely in this world. But, when your friend's going to spend 2 days on a bus to come and see you during his vacation, when it's not very convenient for him at all, that means something to people, It, and I could see it on his face, and his daughter told me, and his wife, everybody knew that me going down there was a big deal, and that made me feel good too, because sometimes you do something and nobody cares, right? Nobody recognizes it, or they might even be bastards and read bad things into it. But this was totally different. I felt intense gratitude from the family, and I heard that my friend had been very down until he heard I was going to come. And then all of a sudden he felt very hopeful, and he was like walking faster and eating more, and, really looking forward to me going. And I realized if I didn't go, it would have been super serious, because he would have gotten his hopes up, and then he would have gone down. And so, the mood of somebody who's dying of cancer and loneliness are kind of similar in a way, because it's facing that big emptiness, right? That is part of life. And the strange thing about it is that life is so full of light and laughter for me. It really is. My life is so full of human interaction and doing things that I want to do, not doing things I have to do or I signed up for, that I don't want to do anymore. So much of my life is being with people I want to be with, doing things I want to do, and shedding off old ways of being that don't work anymore, and moving into things that fundamentally fulfill me. Because I've worked hard to shed those things that just suck, and don't work, But also I really understand the value of friendship, camaraderie, love, caring, concern, emotion, empathy, all those things. I really value those things. And so when I am alone, or sometimes, usually when I'm alone, I don't feel lonely, but once in a while I will feel lonely. It's usually when something suddenly happens, like say a relationship ends, or I lose a job, or I have to move countries and I'm suddenly in a new place where I don't know anybody or something, right? And then it hits me, and it's very dangerous in a way, because it's easy to fall into what everybody does, which is basically try to avoid it, right? By drinking or by getting on Tinder or whatever, and it's tempting sometimes, but if I'm using people, to avoid that feeling, I don't think that's good. So I think that's, for me, the line. Am I alone and happy and in a creative mode, learning, writing, reading, studying, concentrating, whatever, you're doing yoga, whatever it is? Am I with people, enjoying, laughing, adding to the happiness of my friends, and, enjoying that human mirroring process, relationship? Or am I doing something like to avoid it, to avoid that feeling? Or, and I think this is the worst thing, is using other people to avoid that feeling. And the more that you it's kind of like the more you drink, the more you drink. The more you lie, the more you lie. The more it just like it gets worse, So I think being comfortable with being alone is or I don't know if it's comfortable, but realizing that it's a part of life, and that it's okay, not doing what a lot of people do, and they immediately start to shame themselves or something, like, oh, if I was smart, I would have this, or if I was this, if I had that, then I would do, I would have this, and start beating themselves up. And really, it's one thing to have existential loneliness and that kind of emptiness and the pain of that. And it's another to be beating yourself up saying, kind of like, this is my fault. I'm somehow broken, and like all this bullshit. And that is not the reason why people have that feeling. We have feelings of being alone because it's a normal struggle that everybody has. You're not broken. You're not damaged because you have that feeling, whether you're single or married or whatever, You are part of the human race, and then how are you going to use that? How are you going to use that? How are you going to face that? What's your method for dealing with the reality of this aspect of life, right? There's my musings on being alone. I hope you guys have hope you guys found that interesting. Don't be afraid of loneliness, man. Don't be afraid. And if you find yourself falling into this panic, listen to this episode again, and realize that a real man can face the realities of life. And a lesser man, he can't face them, but he will have to face them anyway. There's no escaping from reality. So even if he doesn't face them on his own, he will eventually be forced to face them. It's like if you can't control your spending, you can borrow money, but eventually the bank will stop you from borrowing money, and you will go backwards, right? And so the only choice is, are you going to do it on your own and make an intelligent decision about it? Or are you just going to try to avoid it until you can't anymore? And you're kind of forced to feel it. I think for myself, and I think for a lot of guys that enjoy my, Ronin channel, is like, are brave, in a sense, that willing to face the realities of life. And you can give yourself a pat on the back for that, because a lot of guys can't do that. a lot of guys, man, they're just paper tigers, And loneliness is such a short period of time, right? Like, what is it now? It's like 10 o'clock at night or something, And the friend I thought I was going to hang out with tonight, he had a dinner. So he went out to dinner, and I could have gone out. I could have done something tonight, but I just decided it was raining, and it's rainy season. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to stay home tonight, And it's nice. It's nice, actually. This episode came out of this, making the decision to be here. Allowed me to come up with this concept instead of being out rushing around with friends, which is good too. I do enjoy that too very much. All right, guys. hope you guys enjoyed that, and look forward to hear what you have to say about this, because we all deal with this, right? It's part of the human condition, right? What have you learned from that feeling? How have you reacted to that feeling? And what were the good things you did and the things you that weren't good? And what did anything I said, did it resonate with you? Did it any new ideas there, or do you have any new ideas where you did something that was really good use of that loneliness energy, I guess you call it. Anyway, guys, I'm off, and I'm going to do a little more studying and hit the sack.